in the heart of London, where centuries-old streets wind between government buildings and historic landmarks. A modern political storm has been brewing, one that blends diplomacy, security fears, and a touch of espionage, intrigue. At its center is a piece of land in the borough of Tower Hamlets, on the site of the old Royal Mint. On the surface, it's just a redevelopment project. But beneath that, it has become one of the most fiercely debated diplomatic controversies in recent UK history. The plan to build a massive new Chinese embassy complex. The story begins with China's ambitious vision. The proposed embassy would be the largest in Europe. It's a sprawling complex designed not only for diplomatic offices, but also for consular services, cultural events, and political functions. For Beijing, it would be a statement of presence, a permanent, visible reminder of China's growing role on the global stage. But for many in Britain, the plan triggered unease almost immediately. Concerns began with security. The location of the proposed embassy sits close to sensitive government and financial institutions, and not far from key transport hubs. Intelligence experts and local politicians worried that such proximity could make surveillance easier for foreign operatives. In an age where cyber warfare and covert information gathering are as critical as military power, the fear was that the embassy could become a base for digital spying. British security services have long kept a close eye on foreign diplomatic missions. While embassies are protected by international law and considered sovereign territory of the country they represent, they can also serve as hubs for intelligence operations. In the Cold War, embassies from both East and West were known to hide listening devices in walls, tap into communication lines, and conduct covert meetings. In today's world, those tactics have evolved. Now they might include hacking attempts, surveillance through sophisticated cameras, and monitoring of wireless networks. This backdrop made the Chinese embassy plan more than just a real estate issue. The whispers of hackers and secret cables began circulating in political circles and the media. The UK government received confidential intelligence assessments warning of potential risks. While these assessments remain classified, sources familiar with the discussions say they emphasized vulnerabilities that could be exploited by an adversarial power. Adding to the tension were the broader strains in UK-China relations. In recent years, London and Beijing have clashed over issues ranging from Hong Kong's political freedoms to human rights in Xinjiang, and the banning of Chinese tech giant Huawei from the UK's 5G network. Against this backdrop, approving a massive, strategically placed Chinese diplomatic hub seemed, to some, like inviting a rival into the heart of the capital. Local opposition in Tower Hamlets also grew. The area, already densely populated, faces issues of housing, traffic congestion, and public services stretched thin. Residents worried that the embassy would lead to security lockdowns, protest clashes, and a constant police presence, disrupting daily life. Some community leaders pointed out that the Royal Mint site could instead be used for affordable housing or public amenities. Then came a series of leaks that escalated the debate. Internal government memos referred to in the press as secret cables suggested that high-ranking officials were split on the embassy plan. Some argued that blocking it outright could trigger a diplomatic crisis with China, leading to retaliation against British interests abroad. Others insisted that the national security implications outweighed any diplomatic fallout. In Parliament, the matter became a flashpoint. MPs questioned ministers about the risk of espionage and whether the UK could impose conditions on the embassies. Construction, the government's public position remained cautious, saying only that it was reviewing the planning application in line with national security considerations. But behind closed doors, debates were heated. China, for its part, expressed frustration at the delays and suspicions. Chinese officials insisted that the new embassy was a practical necessity, the current premises in Portland Place, they argued, were outdated and too small to handle the growing demand for visas, consular services, and diplomatic meetings. They dismissed espionage allegations as unfounded and politically motivated. The Chinese embassy in London even issued statements framing the resistance as a sign of rising anti-China sentiment in British politics, warning that such attitudes could damage bilateral relations. In diplomatic terms, it was a clear pushback, a reminder that China sees the embassy not just as a building, but as a symbol of respect and recognition. Meanwhile, journalists began investigating the site itself. It discovered that the proposed embassy complex would include multiple underground levels, reinforced structures, and advanced communication facilities. While such features are not unusual for major diplomatic compounds, they fed speculation about what might go on behind those walls. Cybersecurity experts weighed in, noting that embassies often install secure data centers and encrypted communication systems. In the wrong hands, they warned, such infrastructure could be used for cyber intrusion against host nation networks. As the controversy deepened, some analysts argued that the UK was facing a test of its broader China strategy. Was it possible to maintain economic ties with Beijing while guarding against security threats? Or had relations deteriorated to the point where suspicion outweighed cooperation? The situation also drew in the United States. Washington, already in a tense strategic rivalry with Beijing, quietly expressed its own concerns about the new embassy. U.S. intelligence agencies have long warned allies about the risks of Chinese diplomatic and commercial facilities being used for intelligence purposes. American officials reportedly encouraged London to take a hard line, even if it risked a diplomatic spat. By late summer, the debate had reached a critical point. Local councils and Tower Hamlets formally rejected the planning application, citing both security and community impact. While this was a major blow to Beijing's plans, it did not end the story. The Chinese government has the option to appeal, and diplomatic negotiations could still produce a compromise. For now, the Royal Mint site remains untouched, its future uncertain. But the dispute over its use has already had lasting effects. It has hardened British skepticism toward Chinese infrastructure projects, energized local activism, and underscored how even bricks and mortar can become a front line in modern geopolitics. This is not simply about one building. It's about the intersection of diplomacy, security, and public perception. It's about how an embassy meant to foster dialogue can also become a symbol of mistrust. And it's about how the relationship between two powerful nations can turn even a patch of land into a diplomatic battleground. In the coming months, much will depend on whether London and Beijing can find a path forward. That could mean redesigning the embassy to address security concerns, relocating it to a less sensitive area, or reaching an agreement that reassures both sides. But given the deep currents of suspicion now running between the UK and China, any solution will be difficult. For the people of Tower Hamlets, the debate has brought global politics to their doorstep. For the UK government, it is forced a balancing act between security, vigilance, and diplomatic engagement. And for China, it has become a test of how far it can push its global diplomatic ambitions in the face of resistance. One thing is certain. The fight over the UK's new Chinese embassy has become more than just a local planning dispute. It's a story about power, trust, and the quiet but fierce battles that shape the world we live in.